Howdy, folks. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. We have some news. We have a couple minor trades in the league, a rather auspicious mark set by Phil Kessel, some injury news that's not exactly welcome. And maybe we'll take your questions in the chat. We'll go to about 1:45 today. Go ahead, Russ. And
so,
go ahead, Perla.
Yeah, Perla wants to get in on it. Let's talk about the New York baseball media, who now is going to be really running a clown show, but feasting on clicks for the next, we'll say till December, between the Mets and the Yankees. Now, we have good fun on this show.
You give the Met perspective, I'll give the Yankees.
Right, so we have good fun on this show. And obviously, there are players that both teams would like. We get that too. And we also get the fact that they both have a lot of money. All said, all true. So, the first one is Brandon Nimmo. Nimmo says he'd like to stay in New York, but the Yankees are interested also. And it's like, okay, the Yankees have a need. I get it, especially if they were to lose Judge. But there's a price that nobody is going to cross for Brandon Nimmo, who's an okay leadoff hitter. He's got good power. He's a good center fielder. He's an excellent base runner. Doesn't steal as much as you'd like, but probably shouldn't be a leadoff hitter either. But if you do put him there, he's fine.
He gets on base.
So he gets on base. So there's that. Okay. Then Edwin Diaz. Well, he would like to stay in New York, but the Yankees need bullpen help, and they'll be in on Edwin Diaz. And it's like, okay, listen, I fully expect Edwin Diaz to go out there and look and use, other teams as leverage. But, and then Aaron Judge, of course, there's always going to be writings that the Mets are going to make an offer. Whether they do or not, we don't know. But the basic point of all of this is if you're a fan of either team, I wouldn't get carried away with any of it, because until you actually see that the guy says, hey, it's down to this team, or he's actually signed, I wouldn't put too much stock into any of it.
Yeah, this is fodder for the media to get the fan bases riled up. I mean, honestly, if Judge doesn't re-sign with the Yankees, which I think is probably likely, he's going probably back to the West Coast, back to Northern California, San Francisco, if they offer him the money. I can't see the Mets breaking the bank and going $50 million for 10 years or something.
Only reason I could see it is if they knew they lost DeGrom.
Right. Now supposedly DeGrom wants to go to Atlanta but wants $50 million a year. And I don't
know where that's actually come from, though. By the way,
I think that's floated out there just to get the Mets to step up. It's like
that has popped out of nowhere. He's not from the area. Is he dying to go there and pitch with some of those guys? I haven't heard it.
Honestly, I look at this objectively because DeGrom probably is the best pitcher of the last decade. Yeah. But the problem with him is, and as you know, is that his health. He can't stay healthy. When he's in there, he's the best, but he's hardly in there the last few years. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I would spend, even if I'm a team that's one pitcher away, if I'm the Yankees, I'm not spending $50 million a year on DeGrom. No way.
We won't make 50, but I get what you're saying. Here's the thing about DeGrom. None of it is structural. It's all like muscle and stuff. And that's why he's been able to pitch and still get through it and throw like 100 innings a year, but he should be throwing, 197, 200.
Now
that's the issue.
The interesting thing is on the Yankee side here, and then we'll get started. The bile of the columnists in general in New York is not focused on Cashman or Boone right now. It's on Hal Steinbrenner, because Hal Steinbrenner feels comfortable with Cashman, and that's the reason why Cashman has been in there for over 20 years. And the reports came out yesterday, Russ, as I expected. Cashman's going to be back, and Boone's going to be back. Boone's got 2 more years in his contract. Cashman, I think his contract is up, but he's basically a member of the Steinbrenner family. They like what he's doing.
And Cashman's job is safer than almost anybody's in baseball. Yeah. We all acknowledge that.
So
I still would fire Boone, but I get it if they bring him back too.
Right. So the frustration here is focused on Steinbrenner because he's allowing them to come back.
Right.
My point is that they spent $200 and some odd million and didn't get what they expected out of players. Now, okay, yeah, I thought that the deal that they made with Minnesota was dumb from point go. Kiner Falefa and Josh Donaldson. Josh Donaldson is washed up. He still can play third base defensively, but he can't hit.
Hitting wise, not the same.
And Kiner Falefa is not a shortstop. And they gave up Urshela, who I think was a pretty decent player at third base, but not a big power hitter or anything like that. But the problem is there's another $25 million of salary for next year on Donaldson. They're losing over $40 million in money on the bullpen, which is fine because Britton's been out for a year. Chapman is about as reliable as a Confederate dollar. And Chad Green is having Tommy John surgery. So there's going to be a changeover with that organization. I don't think they're I saw somebody pencil in Nimmo as the left fielder for the Yankees. I'd love it, but I don't think that's their.
If he could get a job in center field with the Mets, he's not going to play left field for the Yankees. Right. That much I can tell you.
Center field for the Yankees is Harrison Bader, and he's a Gold Glove, and he had a great playoff. They're going to spend the money on Judge. I would love it if they brought Benintendi back, because I think Benintendi would be great in New York. But I don't, they'd have to spend money to do that. They're going to add bullpen. So it's going to be obviously the focus is going to be on Judge. It's going to be very interesting. But in the wake of them losing in a sweep to Houston, they had to find somebody to string up, and that was Hal Steinbrenner. So
yeah.
Okay, let's get started. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, October 26, 2022.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sports Holiday.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. So, okay, I will confess, I knew that the landmark was coming up because Phil Kessel played against the Leafs on Monday, but I watched about 5 seconds of San Jose and Vegas last night. I did see that Kessel scored the opening goal. He scored his 400th goal, which was really good. In a game where he breaks the record, and he's the all-time Iron Man in the NHL, surpassing Keith Yandel, 990 games.
I love to see it because it was the opposite of Keith Yandel getting it.
Right, and see the weird. This is the weird thing. I remember when Phil Kessel was injured. Phil Kessel was injured, and before, in between, when he was traded from Boston to Toronto at the beginning of the season, I think it was a shoulder injury. He had surgery. He missed 10 games, and then he came in, and from that point, and I think that was 2007, he's played 990 straight regular.
Which is incredible.
But
he's been effective the whole time. Even if you're not saying last year was a goal-scoring year, he still had a lot of assists.
Well, the funny thing is, and Elliot Friedman made this point on the radio show with Jeff Merrick, was that Kessel players will not be allowed in the future to play like Kessel plays. He's somebody who stays away from the boards, who stays away from confrontations, who does not block shots. He's sort of like a peripheral player. He's an excellent peripheral player. He's great on the power play. He can still skate, but he's not he would drive certain coaches nuts. Like John Tortorella, he would drive insane. He could not play for John Tortorella.
No, he would try and change him. And so you're right about that. You're right.
He was traded before Mike Babcock came into Toronto. Right. Why? Because there's no way it would have worked.
Yeah. But again, you also have to have a resume where you could score 400-something goals in your career, because he's going to get more than 400 to be able to get away with that. So that's the key. But, as much as I said things about him on this show, I was asked about him on Sirius as well. And I went a little deeper. And, the only thing I didn't add to the show is I just said, hey, this guy really has been, I think, one of the pioneers, one of the building blocks of that next generation of American players. American players were non-existent when I was a kid. You had the Mullins, right? The Mullins, Joey and Brian, they came out of New York. How the hell did guys come out of New York and play NHL hockey? But they did. And then things got a little better. And then you got the group with Leach and Chelios and all those guys. And then it started to get, in the middle. And then all of a sudden they started to make hay in the World Juniors, and Kessel was kind of on the group that was just before that. Or was it just after? It might have been just after. I think it was 1 year after. But just as the program was really starting to ramp up to where they really could keep up with Canada, Kessel was a part of that. And so I give him credit because he is one of the great American players of his generation. He is. You don't sneeze at 400 goals. It may not get you in the Hall of Fame, but you don't sneeze at it. And so the fact that he has won cups and he has had these goals and now he has the Iron Man streak, he's got more than just like the Iron Man streak to fall back on. That's what I'm basically saying.
Yeah, I don't know about his accomplishments being Hockey Hall of Fame worthy. Like Kevin said, it was U.S. Hockey Hall.
I said it, and then Kevin agreed.
Oh, right, okay, but
I put Kevin on the spot actually.
Right. Well, yeah, but yeah, 2006 draft, 5th overall pick, and there was some talk about in that draft him being number 1 overall.
There was early on.
Yeah, he sort of slipped. So he was picked after Eric Johnson, Jordan Stahl, Jonathan Taves, and Nicholas Backstrom. So
he's like third on that list, which is a damn good list.
Yeah, no, he's got 960 points, and the only one of those 5 that he's behind is Backstrom, and that's because Backstrom played with Ovechkin. So yeah, I mean,
Taves is going to make the Hall of Fame. We know it. Backstrom will make the Hall of Fame.
Kessel's got 2 Stanley Cups. But so maybe he's got an outside shot, but I
doubt it.
But the funny thing is, I do think, and we know that the Hockey Hall of Fame is a little bit Toronto centric in terms of if you're somebody who had success in Toronto and was popular in Toronto, it's a leg up. So like a Joe Nieuwendyk got in the Hall of Fame, I think, in part because he played a couple years in Toronto and is well liked, and Gary Roberts as well. Or wait, is Roberts in the Hall of Fame? I don't. No, Gary Roberts.
Roberts. No, I don't think so.
No, Roberts. That year was Doug Gilmour is the one.
Gilmour,
played a few and extremely popular in Toronto, and Eddie Belfour as well. But Kessel and his tenure in Toronto was not popular. Not because he wasn't a good player, but because of the way he was sold. And I told you, he was sold as a savior. He was sold as a franchise cornerstone. And as good as he is, he's not that. He's a great high-end complimentary player. But I saw the tweet from Cal Ripken congratulating.
That's great.
Yeah. Talk. Oh, never mind.
Stop. If you're going to say something negative about Cal Ripken, just
I will, but I'll say it off.
Just move on. The one thing that GSM is right about in the chat room, and I've said this before, had Kessel not gotten injured before Game 7 in the playoffs, I kind of wonder if Washington would have won.
Yes, they might have won. Pittsburgh might have won 3 in a row.
Right, because I was at that game when Kessel was testing things out to see if he could play, or maybe the game started. No, I think the game was just getting ready to start, whatever. He was just trying to see if he can get out there. I think it was warm-ups, and he couldn't. And I was like, damn, that's a big loss. Like, that may be too much for them. And it was. He really was that important to him.
Okay, so a couple minor trades in the NHL. One involving the Philadelphia Flyers. Evan Barrett goes to the Flyers. Cooper Zek goes to Chicago. Russ, do you know anything about either one of these guys?
I do. Well, Cooper Zek has been playing for a little while. Defenseman. He's like meh. He just, he can do a little bit of everything, not great at anything. So I think this is a situation where if a team's looking to build some depth, you get him, and that's fine. I mean, I get it. Evan Barrett, the local Pennsylvania guy, like he's not a Philly guy. I got to look up where he's exactly from, but I know actually he might be like. Let's see. I don't know exactly where he's from, but I know he's from Pennsylvania. He played the All-American Prospects game way back in the day, and I've watched him when he played with Penn State, and then after that. Here's the thing about him. When he was a prospect, we all were high on him in the prospect world. Yeah, the other thing about Cooper Zek, he's a 5'9" defenseman. I think that's important to point out.
Right.
The thing about Barrett is, at the time, he is a guy that can play the game, can play defense, can score some goals, could play on the power play, and at the time was fast enough.
He's from Bristol, Pete.
Yeah, Bristol. Yeah, so he is close, right outside of Philly, and that's what my brain was saying. But I wanted to kind of make sure. Thanks, Tim. Whoever said that, Matthew. Yeah, so he's a local guy. He's probably going to get undue ink because of that, because he did when the All-American Prospects game was here in Philly and he played. But the point is, he's not fast. And so adding a not fast center, if you're saying you want to beef up Lehigh, great. If you have hopes of him playing for the Flyers, he's got to get faster. He's just not going to be fast enough to be able to make a difference on that team as he is. Now, maybe they'll be able to unlock something in him, but, right now it just looks like a depth move. But, I like the guy. There's definitely game there. 2 years ago, he was really, bad. Last year, he had a bounce-back year. So at least he's figuring some things out, but he's at the end, he's no longer really a prospect anymore, and now he's just kind of like a quadruple A guy. And can he get past that?
Yeah, the other deal was the Canadians acquiring Nicholas Bowden from Chicago for Cam Hillis. The impetus for this deal probably was an injury to Caden Gooley, so maybe Baudin is going to play with the Habs until Gooley is back and then gets sent down.
Neither is going to light up the world.
Right. So a couple minor deals, probably just AHL stuff. The big news of the day came out about a half hour ago, and it doesn't sound exactly encouraging for Ottawa Senators center Josh Norris. Kyle Bukauskas, how Hockey Night in Canada reported that DJ Smith said he's not confident that Norris will play again this season. They're still waiting to see if surgery is needed on his shoulder. So it could be a dislocation. Usually, if it's a season ender with a shoulder, it is a dislocation of some sort, or torn labrum. They'll specify later on. But
doesn't matter if it's shoulder; he's out for the year.
Yeah. So I know that, and I don't know what the plan. Does this mean that they move Giroux to the middle? Does this mean they move? And the Stützle, I know they were playing in the middle. Pinto was down in the lineup. Pinto's having a lot of success. Do they move Pinto up? Do they move Giroux to the middle? They'll
move Pinto up and probably put Giroux in the middle. Or they'll put Giroux on the wing, but he'll take faceoffs.
Right. Way. Norris was playing with Brady Tkachuk, so that was the tandem there. Yeah. So, maybe they move Giroux. We know from Giroux the way he played in Philadelphia, he can still play the middle. Can he play it well?
Well, but you don't have to play him in the middle. Honestly, you could play him on left wing and just have him take the Z zone draws too.
I know that they toyed with Brady, moving Brady Tkachuk to the middle. He'd played center a couple.
He did. I think it's not the time to do that, though. Not when you have a Giroux and he's still young enough where you could utilize that.
Now, just some news and notes here. I just saw something.
I wanted to mention some Philly stuff because I was at practice today.
Is that Jake?
No, this is Perla.
That's Perla. I'm saying Perla.
Yeah, Jake is Brindle, Mike. Perla's upset that you don't know the difference.
I only saw her nose, for crying out loud.
Okay.
Jeez.
I'm sorry, Perla. He doesn't know any better. Remember, Perla's blind. You're not.
I can't see you.
But at any rate, go lay down. At any rate, with Philly, so Owen Tippett was wearing a tinted visor yesterday, coming off of concussion protocol, and today he's not. So I'm expecting him to play on Thursday. He looked pretty good out there. So I think, that's a little bit of an upgrade for him. Cam Atkinson's still not practicing. We've been through the whole Cam Atkinson thing. And as much as Torts is trying to not make it sound like Ryan Ellis, it's making it sound like Ryan Ellis because Flyers fans have PTSD already with what happened with him. So, even Torts saying the other day, he doesn't think it's month to month. Well, guess what? It's literally the definition of month to month at the end of this month. So he's month to month. The Flyers may not announce that, but that's fine. So no end in sight for that one. You don't know when he's going to come back and whatever. And Couturier's, skating around. And Ristolainen was skating like he was basically in groupings today. So whether they use him or not, we don't know. I didn't hang around for the Torts press conference because I had to do this show and I'm doing another show. So that's sort of where the Flyers are at. Torts was screaming at practice. I can tell you that. We heard the echoes of his voice towards the end of practice. So I don't think this was the best practice that he ever saw. I'm going to say that. I didn't detect anything that looked bad. But again, I think he's looking for certain things. So that's something where, 2 day, you're 1 day now before a game tomorrow. That could affect the lineup. So I would say keep an eye on the Flyers lineup because, he's not in love with what he's seeing out there for sure.
Yeah, I can't find the report that Timothy Park is posting in the chat about Van Riemsdyk having surgery.
No, he's having surgery tomorrow on his finger. It came off a block shot. The big thing that I talked about on some other shows is it's good to want your players to block shots. But Wayne Gretzky is also right. If you're a scorer on a team, you're putting yourself at an extra risk blocking shots. There really should be certain players that do it no matter what. That's their job. I get it.
And the reason there's a risk is because their equipment is different. Like, say if you're a defenseman, say you're Craig Ludwig. You had those monstrous wide shin pads, but you also had these really gloves that were sort of like workman gloves that they probably had Kevlar in them if you shot at them, and they were all the way up to the wrist. A goal scorer wants flexibility to be able to move his wrists because to be more creative with the puck, and the gloves sometimes are lighter. And when they're blocking shots, that opens them up to the possibility of having a finger broken or a metacarpal or something like that. And that's what happened here. So that's, I doubt that Van Riemsdyk is wearing the gloves of a stay-at-home defenseman like a Niskanen or somebody like that. So
yeah, then he wouldn't be able to score, and he has been scoring a little bit. The basic point is, Torts wants guys playing defense. Guys are now going to block more shots. Mm-hmm. It could result in more injuries.
I'm going to write about this in a little bit, but the news came out late last night of the Leafs moving Jake Muzzin from IR, which is a 7-day minimum stay, to long-term injury, LTIR, which is 10 games minimum, 10 games and 24 days, 24 days being 3.5 weeks. The chatter out there right now, there's not a lot of information other than they're going to take their time. But whenever I hear that, Russ, I start to say, okay, they don't know what this is, or they know what this is, and it's a situation where they know, especially with Muzzin, with the preponderance of injuries that he's had over the years, 2 concussions last year. I know he's had, shoulder and leg and this. He's a warrior. He's played a lot of
concern from the players was what concerned us,
especially.
And that's why I think the Leafs do know. And right now they're just handling it this way because they're handling it this way. But I believe they know, and the players certainly knew something is up with him. So
now, immediately I compared it to, and I know different sports and different instances, but Muzzin got hit not purposefully. It was sort of like he collided with Clayton Keller, and it was sort of a whiplash thing. He turned, they collided, and it looked like he was stunned, and obviously he would be with that kind of hit. And then he got to the bench and then went to the locker room, and didn't come back. I compared it to the Micah Hyde from the Bills, the hit that he had earlier in the season. It looked like nothing, ended up being a herniated disc, and they ended up having surgery. And if it's something where, like, for him to play, and I'm just speculating here, I don't know anything more than speculation. But if it was similar to that, and it was something like you have to have neck surgery to continue your career, then it might be a situation where
he doesn't want to have the surgery.
He doesn't want to have the surgery. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, sometimes neck surgery is risky, and depending on what you have going on. I know people with neck surgery that didn't work out. We know players that it did work out. Right. So there's both sides of it. It is risky. Here's what I'm thinking, though, as far as in the back of my mind, knowing that there's probably a little desperation in the Leafs front office right now. I think just as far as the look at the playoffs, they have enough money to fit in Jacob Chikrin if they wanted to. If they could scrape up the assets, they may increase their offer to Arizona.
I don't think they have to scrape up assets. I think they have enough assets.
So they have I don't know. I think they have to scrape them up. I do.
No, I don't think. I mean,
they're pretty good assets. Look, I mean, some of them are playing now. I get it, but I think whatever the limitation was before, I think Toronto may be now willing to go past that based on this.
I see. The funny thing is, and here's my prediction. I don't know, and I'm just like reading the landscape and seeing what's going on out there. I don't think they want to trade 4 assets for Jacob Chychrun for somebody who is a good to great player, but somebody who's had numerous injury issues. I actually think that the situation that might fit them is Ethan Bear, because Ethan Bear can't get into the lineup in Carolina. He basically, I think the rumor is he's asked for a trade, right-hand shot defenseman. I know that the Leafs were supposedly interested in him before. There's talk about, if they can't make a deal, him being placed on waivers. If he's placed on waivers, now obviously teams
they're not going to do that. You know that.
No, but they'll probably trade him because I think there's the market out there. But I think Ethan Bear would make a lot of sense, especially with the fact that now they have room under the cap. I mean, Murray is coming back, but
I heard he's walking now.
No, stop it. Murray's coming back probably in 2 to 3 weeks. But if Muzzin is out there long term, then they have his salary to be able to add a defenseman. Bear, I think, is making the mid-2s. So I think that would be something that would fit more than the big deal for Muzzin. And I think,
but again, that's your
for Chychrun. I'm sorry.
I think it's fine to do that, but again, I think you're looking for the cost-cutting measure, and I don't think that team could afford to do that anymore. Like, I think Ethan Bear is not a replacement for Jake Muzzin.
No,
he really isn't.
I know, but okay.
At least with Chychrun, you could upgrade the position, which is what you might need to get past all this playoff funk to begin with.
As completely a different player than Muzzin, the replacement for Muzzin is Rasmus Sandin moving over to the left side.
Right now it is.
Right, and I think they're going to give him what in a couple weeks. Timothy Liljegren comes back. Sandin is on the left side.
Unless he's in the trade.
I think if Chychrun if they trade for Chychrun, I think Sandin is.
Yeah, probably.
But what I'm saying is, I think they'll give an opportunity to Sandin and Liljegren because they played well together last year. When Liljegren comes back, they'll put those two together. They'll move Justin Hall down to the bottom pairing with Giordano. But the thing is, Ethan Bear, if that's a situation that they can bring him in, I think he's a better defenseman than Justin Hall. So,
you think anybody on earth's better than Justin Hall?
Well, if Justin Hall would stop giving away the puck, sure, and maybe he'd be better than Satan. Okay, well, I just saw this and I have to shake my head.
Wait, I have to ask you, who is a worse defenseman, Justin Hall or Corey Cross?
That's close. They're both bad. I'd say Hall
disliked by the fan base.
Yes. Well, no. As was pointed out to me by a rather well-known commentator in Toronto, I was primarily
with brown hair.
Yeah, I was primarily responsible for the sort of picking on a certain defenseman over the last 20 years in Toronto, and I'm proud of that fact because all of them sucked. Corey Cross, Anders Eriksson, Jyrke Lume, Justin Hall, Jake Gardner, Jeff Finger. I mean, okay, there's enough crap there to go around. I mean, some of them have redeeming qualities, I'm sure, and some of them were nice people, but on the ice they were not good. And no, like I
answer the question.
What's that? Who's worse? It's bad. I mean, I don't know. It's a tie. I can't.
It's a tie. Okay.
Tie. They're both terrible. They really are.
All right.
Yeah. Andrew Berry, Hall isn't that bad. Come on, man. Okay, Andrew, are you a Leaf fan? And if you're not, do you want Justin Hall on your team? And if you don't, shut up. Okay. I don't know how they calculate this stuff, but I'm just gonna read this and we'll have a little giggle at it. Moneypuck.com states the best defensive pairings with at least 50 minutes played this season so far. Granted, it's 7 games.
Right.
Now, you would think the best defensive pairing in the league, the one that won the Stanley Cup last year, Devin Taves and Cale Makar would be the best. They're second. see, 5 games. I don't know what the stats are. I'm just going to read. They were second. The number 1 pairing, Russ, is Josh Mahura and Radko Gudas in Florida. Okay? I'm moving on from this piece of crap right now. No offense to moneypuck.com, but if your statistics point out that Josh Mahura and Radko Gudas are better in this statistical analysis than Devin Taves and Cale Makar, throw out the statistics. They're worthless.
Yeah, I can't go down that rabbit hole.
Okay. Some games in the NHL last night. Colorado and the Rangers. I wanted to get your input on that one because I saw a little bit of this game. This could be a potential Stanley Cup preview, although I don't think Colorado is at full force right now without Landeskog, but they're still they took a lot of hits in free agency, losing Kadri to Calgary, but a 3-2 shootout victory for the Avalanche. Well, what did you think of this game?
This game was good. This was one of the best games I've watched this year. I mean, people, can bitch and moan about a Shesterkin goal that he gave up, fine. But he also made some 5-alarm saves, one on Rantanen. Georgiev made an amazing save on Lafreniere and a lot of other good ones. Now, of course, going back into Rangers history, and a lot of other teams always feel this way, they feel like anybody who leaves the Rangers comes back and always wins and plays great. But Georgiev, I think we have to acknowledge now, we have a little bit of a body of work for him in Colorado. He's fitting in just fine. He's never going to be the best number 1 goalie in the league, but I think
Michael Cohen,
Hockeyberg is better.
Michael Cohen, you finally earned a reason not to be banned for 5 minutes because I forgot about Aki Berg, and Aki Berg is the worst of them all.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is. He was the 3rd overall pick. He was a waste.
No, that's why you're attaching the 3rd overall pick.
No. Time out. He was a 3rd overall pick. He was traded for a 2nd-round pick and Adam Mayer. The 2nd-round pick turned out to be Mike Camilleri. He sucked. He was terrible.
See, that's why.
And Pat Quinn played him to death. And I don't understand the reason why. Now he's a trainer. I hope he's better as a trainer than he is as a hockey player because he was a lousy hockey player.
Anyhow, Michael Cohen needs to worry about his freedom and work on that.
Is he joining Steve Bannon?
No. Steve Bannon still has a few months to go on the sentence. Anyhow, let's get back to this. We're really off track here. What were we talking about now?
The Avalanche and the Rangers.
Avalanche Rangers.
Were they chanting Georgie like they chanted Eddie?
No, but they gave him a video. Gave him a video, which is good. In the end, my summation from this, and the first period was not what Gerard Gallant wanted. He kind of got on them. He got on them for not playing enough on the forecheck, and that improved in the game, and that did probably get him into the shootout. That's going to be a struggle with Gallant this year because he's got a lot of young players, and he's going to be yelling at them a lot to work on the forecheck. But the problem is when they're working on the forecheck, they're not as offensively dynamic as they could be. And that is going to be the battle for the Rangers. In the end, Colorado's still the better team, but you could at least see where the Rangers are close. And that's the way I've sort of got them viewed right now. Right now, they're very close, depending on what happens at the deadline. But even let's say they get Patrick Kane, if they give up too much from their starting lineup, then that could hurt them for this year. Now, if Kane's signed for another year or two, then it's possible you could say next year could be the Rangers' year. But right now, this moment, Colorado's better. And
Hedo got hurt, not in the game, but
he's got a concussion.
Okay,
so he's out for a little bit. Kravtsov played. He was on the ice for 2 goals. He didn't score anything that I saw. I don't think he got any points, but he being on the ice for a couple goals was good. Sammy Blais healthy, so that was good. Goudreau scored a really nice goal. I mean, that's the thing where if all of a sudden you can get 15 goals out of Barclay Goudreau, that could be a nice boost for them. So, in the end, Shesterkin, he's ramping up his game. He may not have come out of the gate here as the best goalie in the league, but he's making some great saves already.
I just got to say this. Motherfucking Martin Marincin. him, Corbinian Holzer. I mean,
It's a family show, Mike.
I've rattled off 10 defensemen who were just absolute crap. All right, okay. So
I mean, you didn't say Mike Komisarek, so good for you.
Mike Komisarek was a creation of Andrei Markov, and they paid way too much. He wasn't a bad defenseman, but some scores last night. The Arizona Coyotes scored. Wow, they earned their second victory. They beat somebody other than the Leafs, and they beat the Columbus Blue Jackets 6-3.
They embarrassed the Blue Jackets.
Now I'll tell you this, Russ. Shane Gostisbehere now has 4 goals. They're giving him a lot of ice time. He's a rental. He's
freewheeling.
He's free. Yeah. He's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. He's going to get them some assets because with this league and defense, if you get a scoring defenseman and he's scoring again, they might be able to get a first round pick for him. I think I think he's playing well enough that maybe he's redeeming sort of his reputation that he had as a rookie.
Yeah, I think it's redeemed enough that you can get a third rounder. I don't think you can get much else. Yeah, third rounder, because he doesn't play much defense. He really doesn't.
Maybe a second rounder. I said low first, but
maybe a second. The offense is there. If somebody's looking for power play help, they'll go for him. He's still not the same Shane Gostisbehere he was early with the Flyers. He's not. But he's gotten to the point here where I think you're right. And there is something there. Now, I don't know if they're going to get rid of him if they trade Chychrun. That's the thing.
Well, I mean, he's a rental, so they would lose him at the end of the year.
Well,
anyway.
But they could re-sign him. He probably likes it there. And
yeah, that's true.
And there's no pressure. Right now he does have 8 points in 4 games. That's great. Last year he had 51, which is, the second most in his career.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. But again, he's a minus. I know the team's bad, but he's always going to be a minus.
Yeah, but Esmir, he was at least a good power play point guy and an excellent skater and a good offensive defenseman. He had his shortcomings, but he was a good player. And in that game, Johnny Gaudreau scores his 5th of the season, Kent Johnson his 3rd of the season, and Patrick Laine returned after the injury.
Wearing a purple suit.
Oh, God.
I gotta tell you, this guy dresses, man. But here's the thing.
I still remember, Russ, when they had the video of him being interviewed after the Leafs won the lottery, and he was like in bed in Helsinki. It looked like he had it was hilarious. And at least his style has gotten a little better over the years.
It's gotten better. Here's the thing I'll say. I think by accident now Kent Hughes will be up the rest of the year. Kent Johnson, sorry. Kent Hughes, whatever. He's doing a good job in Montreal. Yeah. But I think Kent Johnson's going to stay up the rest of the year now. I think.
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah. They started him down below in the AHL. Laine gets hurt. He gets called up, and he's taking the bull by the horns, which we thought he could. Because Kent Johnson is massively talented. I've said it on this show 3 or 4 times. I think people are underrating how good he is. So the fact that Laine is back now and Johnson is there, that should help them a lot this season.
The Bruins win their 6th game of the year, 3-1 over the Dallas Stars. Linus Ullmark in goal again for Boston. So it seems like he now has gotten the starting job.
Montgomery seems to like him.
Yeah, he started 5 of the 7 games, I believe. So
yeah.
David Pastrnak with his 5th goal of the season. That's a weird situation, Russ, because they're trying to get him signed. And with every goal he scores and as dominant as he's been, I would imagine that the price is going up.
No, you always think the meter's running on that stuff. It really isn't. I think the issue there is with Pastrnak, he knows he's getting re-signed. It's just a matter of the right bonuses, how much in the first couple of years compared to the last couple of years. The no move, the no trade. It's all getting done. I think we all know this.
Yeah, well, probably. They're surprising right now because Taylor Hall's playing well. Bergeron is playing well. That's not a surprise because he always does. And Krejci has been great in returning. it's like he needed that respite of a year in Czechia. The Minnesota Wild get off the schneid, beat the Canadians. The Canadians are always good to get off the schneid unless your name is Toronto. Minnesota wins 3-1 over the Habs. Joel Eriksson Ek with 2 goals. It is ironic that there was this look at the Wild and they had a bunch of players who everybody was like, when is this guy going to be something? They said the same thing. They said that about Greenway. Yeah. They said that about Eriksson Ek. And now all of a sudden they were patient, they waited, and now both of them are great.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you have to do. You have to, patience in this league is everything. It really is. I give him credit. I was always a huge Eriksson Ek guy too. Like there was too much talent there to just like say it was never going to happen,
I agreed. The Devils beat the Red Wings 6-2. Dawson Mercer with his 3rd of the season. Hughes, Bratt, Sharangovich. I brutalize that name all the time. Nico Hischier and Bratt again. So 6 goals, and Vitek Vanacek gets the win. The Devils have bounced back after a struggle at the beginning. Now they're 4-3. No more Lindy Ruff firing talk, at least right now. But if they go into a slump, I'm sure that will pop back again.
Jack Hughes looked really good. I think when you have like Mark Messier saying he thinks he's going to be a big star, he's turned the corner. All those texts that I used to get that this guy's a bust, I think everybody has shut up now.
Yeah. Well, I think with him, the only thing is durability. He's had a history.
Listen, he's a smaller guy. He could get hurt every year, but if he plays 60 games, he's going to score 75 points.
He's just got to find his inner Phil Kessel. He's got to avoid contact. I know it's tough, and teams will try to weigh on him. But
Kessel, he's wider and bigger than Jack Hughes. That's the only thing. Maybe one day Jack Hughes will, be more, will be thicker, but until then.
This is the thing. There are players that are slight that have that innate ability to avoid contact. His brother is one of them. Yeah. Quinn Hughes is somebody who avoids contact. Mitch Marner in Toronto is that way.
Yes.
If he can find that, or if that's something he can learn, then I think he'll have a lot more success than if he
I'm sure Quinn's tried to work on it with him. The problem is when Jack wants to make a play, he's going to try and make a play. Like, he's fearless. Like, it's hard to take that out of a guy.
One of the bigger surprises of the year so far is the Blackhawks winning games. They're now.
Why are they winning, Mike? Have you been able to put your finger on it?
Yeah, Jonathan Taves has got 3 goals. Patrick Kane scored his 1st of the season.
You are such a phony.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that Alex Stalock is leading this team. He's got 3 wins. Okay. He's got over a .930 save percentage.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Is he not going to get credit?
No, wait a week. He'll be in Rockford.
Doing better than Matt Murray.
Matt Murray's injured.
And he's doing better than him.
He's injured.
He's doing better than Samsonov.
When Matt Murray's back and Alex Stalock's in the AHL, then we'll see.
He's doing better than Samsonov.
Okay. No, he's not.
Samsonov has a .938 save percentage?
No, he's got 4 wins. So it's not.
Well, he's 3-1. Yeah. What's the save percentage, big boy?
So what? We're a week and a half into
the season. This guy had COVID. He had myocarditis.
I feel sorry for him.
I think you should be nice to say at least Alex Stalock has rebounded in his career, which I'm not sure anybody was going to think he could.
I'm not nice to anybody. The
you
Calgary
really aren't. You're
the Calgary Flames beat
the hot
Penguins 4-1. Nazem Kadri now with 4 goals. He scored a pair of goals. It's funny because Kadri didn't want to go to Calgary a few years ago, blocked the trade, then signed with Calgary when Calgary had the money. And I don't blame him because, if you're going to make, coming off a Stanley Cup victory, if you can and you're a free agent, make the most money that you can. He's playing really well there. And they have another match against the Oilers later this week. And again, I can't wait to watch Kadri get into the bonnet of Connor McDavid.
Is McDavid hurt though? We saw him get thrown.
No, he came back. He was on the bench after slamming into the post, which was a weird situation.
Yeah. I will point out that Mangiapane scored the other day, but he has 2 goals. and 4 points.
Okay, is he going to be top 10 in the NHL? No.
I mean, he'll be close, Mike.
Yes, he will. Yeah, okay.
Just outside of that.
Well, we'll see.
But we have to say this, though. Something that we thought, based on the fact that Calgary is good defensively and has that, a better defense now, that is going to help Markstrom. Markstrom does look a lot better.
Yeah. Last thing, the Sabres 3-game road winning streak was snapped by the worst team that they played during the 4-game road trip, which was Seattle. Not to say Seattle's bad, but that and I think they celebrated beating Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver, and just let the foot off the pedal a little bit. They lost 5-1 to the Kraken yesterday. I had to say, and I didn't mention Wyatt Johnson, who had the goal for Dallas, but it's coming up in the next, week to 10 days. All these players that are on rookie contracts, the 9-game mark, whether they're going to get sent back to junior.
Well, Tony Soprano asks every day, and we can't always get to it. I would keep Wyatt Johnston up.
Yes. Now, I would, if I was Seattle, because they're mismanaging Shane Wright and playing him 6 minutes a night, I don't know if it would do him a lot more to send him back to Kingston. Maybe Kingston trades his rights someplace, but I do think if it's a question between playing 6 minutes a night in the NHL and 20 minutes a night in junior, that it probably would be better.
He didn't even play yesterday.
Yeah, going back to junior and playing for Canada at the World Junior in Halifax.
I just want to say how annoyed I am with Dave Haxtell. He is obtuse, man. One day he's like, oh, Shane, almost scored a goal. We got to give him more minutes. So he went up from 6 to 8. And now, 2 games later, he's scratched again. This is not a strategy. This is stupidity. And it's not like the Seattle Kraken are going to definitely be a playoff team. And they should be giving Shane Wright every chance. So they absolutely know if they send him back, the reason they're sending him back is because he's not quite ready. You can't prove yourself getting 6 minutes a night. You can't. And I'm just so annoyed with this guy. Just thinking that this is an okay plan. And I don't know. I guess Ron Francis is not going to say anything for a little while, but maybe Ron Francis will get involved at some point. Yeah.
All right. Great show. We'll be back either tomorrow or Friday, depending on a few factors. But we'll let you know via Twitter. But thanks for watching. And for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.